Welcome to the debut episode of For the Love of the Show. I am one of your hosts, Spurg. Right next to me is the author that inspired this show. I said it right, amazingly. The author for Love of the Show, Mr.
Jeremy Housewright, the good doctor.
There you go. I figured you'd say Dr. Jeremy Housewright first. I figured you would. And as you guys know, and if you haven't known, you can go on to Amazon and pick up the book For the Love of the Show right there on Amazon, which
Yes.
somebody changed my link and took it out. So I'm going to have to yell at somebody later.
You can also go to my own website, jeremyhousewright.com.
Go to jeremyhousewright.com to get that also. So, Jeremy, what was the reasoning why we decided to do this show based off of the book? Because we have a special guest for our very first show. Right. And would you like to say his name before we bring him on and you explain the stuff?
Yeah, John Warenberg is going to be our first guest, and I've known John since I walked into his classroom as an 8th grader 20-something years ago. So we've been good friends ever since, and he does a lot of good in the community, revolving around sports. And that's kind of what this show is going to be about. It's going to be about people who have a passion for a sport or sports, but also use that passion to help others and make the community a better place for everyone else. So, we thought that we would start the show and revolve it around the book and not just focus on pro wrestling, but all sports.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of why I started the Fuel Sports Network, was because of that kind of stuff right there. It's a platform to where we have all creators come out and get their stuff out there, and it's a platform where everybody can share. Where it's fan created content from around the globe. Because you can download us on Fuel, or you can download us on Roku and Fire Stick at fuelsports.com. Right. So can't beat that, right? Right there. Boom. There it is.
Yeah.
And you can find us on all the social medias, all that good stuff. All right, Jeremy. So, good doctor. Is that what I'm going to call you, the good doctor?
Yeah, you can call me the good doctor.
Because I can't go by the name I used to go by. I have to go by Spurg now. I have to be a little more professional, right? So we're going to bring him in, and you sent me over some lists, some stuff for him that he does and that he works with. And I have a lot of questions on some things.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of things to talk about.
There is. And so we're going to bring him in, Mr. John Warenberg. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Appreciate having me on.
Yeah, so it's funny. You're on the debut show, and our show is called For the Love of the Show. And one of the things that Jeremy gave me some little info on you was for the love of the community, where you coach basketball to help those in need. So explain a little bit about what that is, because I just think it's funny, the name of the show, and then you say for the love of the community. So kind of explain what that is.
I actually had that same kind of the irony of it, that we had the same name. But I had started a program called For Love of the Community. We had a police officer that had cancer, and his wife was a teacher in the district. And I thought, you know what, this would be a great time to bring the whole community together. We have a parochial school in town called ICS. That's kind of like a rivalry that I just thought, if we come to a common goal, forget about the actual basketball game and raise money for this family and have a program before the actual game, it would just, create an awareness of how we have a platform in sports to we can use that for the good. And it just went incredible. It really did. We packed the house. You couldn't have got another person in that gym. We had about a 20-minute program. We presented gifts to the family. It was just a very emotional night, one of the most emotional nights of my life. And then just every year we would pick a different situation. We had a family that was in a bad automobile accident and lost the mom, and the kids were badly injured. So we had the family kind of come out, and we dedicated that. So it was just kind of a cool thing. I kind of hoped it would continue. It did for 1 year after I retired, but then I don't think they do it anymore.
Well, it's funny that you say that because Fuel, we are a non-for-profit sports network where we actually help raise money for different things around the U.S. Like we've raised money for Autism Speaks, uh,
Mm-hmm.
women's shelter in Houston. We're getting ready to do an event with Ricky Prohl for his thing.
Oh.
Horrific. So it's funny because that's what Fuel is we're a non-for-profit sports. Kind of weird to say. So explain with the non-for-profit kind of stuff you did because you did the haircut days for the basketball teams. It seems like you do a lot with basketball. Is that one of your passions, basketball?
You could say that. I coached it for about 38 years, so it definitely is a passion. But I got to explain this. My dad was a minister, and so I was kind of one of those PK kids, the one that kind of misbehaved, but yet I had a passion for helping others. And my dad always said, "You'll get further than I will from the pulpit by on the sideline." And I just used that as a platform to do a lot of things with my teams, and then just kind of things grew out from there. Like, for instance, one of the first things our team will do every year is we'll go work with special needs kids. And we'll work with underprivileged kids from East St. Louis. Anything to get them to understand that they need to give back, and second, how fortunate they are. Because I would always tell them, you're never going to be very good until you can realize where you're at and other people in their situation.
Good doctor. It sounds a
Hmm.
lot like what Fuel is doing.
Yeah.
My fiance Amanda, her son has autism, so that's why our first event was the Autism Speaks. So that's why we did that money there. So you were talking with. Let's go back to your haircut thing and your basketball thing. You were talking about you're doing it with kids with special needs. Have you ever thought of moving into the autism type spectrum? Because a lot of those kids have that sensory issues and stuff. And as a coach, how would you work with the kid with autism that has sensory needs or issues to like dribble a basketball or catch a basketball or pass a basketball? Like what would it be in your coaching idea?
So it's funny you would say that because I took on a autistic boy that became my manager for several years, and it's a weird story. This is one of these crazy stories that you just can't make up. My daughter and this boy were born on the same day in the same hospital. Mercy South now was St. Anthony at the time, but there was only two babies born that night, which was the fewest babies they'd ever had born on a night. Turns out 13 years later, I meet this gal, and that boy was the other boy that was born the same night as my daughter. His name is Zach. So I took him on. Great experience. We ended up going on Channel 5. Mike Bush did a whole special. I put him into a game, and it was just a great experience. From that, his mom and I felt there was definitely a connection here. This is bigger than us, that we were brought together. So we started a foundation called Teamwork, which stands for Transitioning Exceptional Adults into Meaningful Work. And we have taken this and run with it to where now the YMCA has bought us out, and we still work with it, but we have the financing through the YMCA that allows these autistic kids to do everything from life skills, social skills. We went rock climbing 2 weeks ago. Just a plethora of things that they now get to do they normally wouldn't once they get out of high school. Because I asked her, I go, what is Zach going to do when he gets out of high school? And she goes, there's not a lot there. So we decided to start this foundation.
Yep.
Hmm.
Don't forget to mention the golf tournament you put on every year that I've graced my appearance. I've graced you all with my appearance 1 year and finishing dead last and got drunker than a skunk. And
so you had a good time, though.
I did. I had a great time.
Yeah, we are in our 19th year having this golf tournament. We raise money for teamwork through this golf tournament. I don't even really have to advertise. It's usually a lot of my former players, friends. and it's just kind of a neat reunion every year where once again they're kind of giving back, and they all knew Zach, and it's just kind of a great event to where we'll raise about $8,000, and it goes towards teamwork at the YMCA to continue to help fund that. Kim is actually the director of it, Zach's mom, and she runs it 5 days a week, so it has really taken off for us.
Now, see, this is interesting because, well, first, this is a Fuel Sports Network. This is the debut show of For the Love of the Show. I am one of your hosts, Spurg. Right next to me over there is the man who inspired this entire show, the author of For the Love of the Show, the one and the only.
Good doctor.
And then right below us is his good friend. I don't know why, and I don't know why we're friends with the good doctor for as long as we have been, Mr. John Warenberg, who we're talking about his work with teamwork. And the reason why we got to it is if you've been listening, is because of autisms and kids on the spectrum. I would really like to talk to you off air about having Fuel team up with the teamwork and seeing what we could do and seeing where we could help each other, because I'm very, very interested in that for my, soon to be stepson, Blake, and my fiance, Amanda, who's very involved with the Autism Speaks. So let's go to that. Do you have a lot of dealings with the Autism Speaks and stuff like that? Look at that big, beautiful puppy.
This is my daughter's little baby, and she's on a cruise, and I'm dog sitting. So this has been what you're saying.
That ain't a little baby. That was not a little baby.
That's not the one that bit me, is it?
It is.
He's got that dog bites everybody, dude. Like,
but didn't bite him.
No, but it bit me and it bit Jason Vogel.
Well, I know why it bit you, because you wear those stupid Kansas City stuff. So that's why it bit you. It seems like it's a Cardinal fan, so But so
kind of
back
cool
to teamwork with the Autism Speaks.
Is I literally my first 2 years of my golf tournament was for Autism Speaks in general, in honor of Zach, until we started teamwork. And a really cool story. One of my former players, Dustin Rao, put on this little concert in the back of a bar called Tiny's. And he goes, "Hey, I want to raise money for you." He goes, "I really want to start getting into charity." And I think they raised like $3,500. And then we talked afterwards. And he goes, "I just want to start doing this." And I go, "Well, what, you got to find your passion. When you find it, you'll know it." And he called me back, I guess about a couple months later. He goes, "I think I'm going to do something with soldiers, these vets that come back." He had been overseas, and he saw some action and had lost a friend. And he has now taken this. It's called Song for Soldiers, and it's one of the biggest concert events in the St. Louis area. It has just grown beyond belief. So that is really cool when I see him taking that idea and kind of running with it. He's done much more than I've ever done.
I like that. And it's interesting because you talk about your former students, and you have a former student right over here.
Yeah. So I was the best man in his wedding.
Yeah, you were. I remember that. I remember that because I was there. And so let me ask you, what is it like having a student like Dr. Jeremy House right over here write a book? Like what kind of how do you feel about it? Because you were in the forward of the book.
Yeah.
So to you, what did that mean?
Well, I mean, he is one of the most talented writers I've ever read. I mean, he really is an amazing talent. And selfishly, I keep going, man, I hope you go back into journalism, because he is so good at what he does. And he has a passion, for helping others too. So when you see these two things come together, you can't be more prouder of a student. You just can't. I would tell my students all the time, you become lawyers, doctors, that's really nice. But when you're giving back to your fellow man, there's nothing in the world makes me prouder. So when that book came out, I mean, I was just elated. I really was.
And what did you think of me? Because I was in a couple of those chapters. I was the character Dirty at the time in those chapters. What did you think of that idiot?
I think we're some passionate people there.
And of course, I lose my camera. How does that work? You gotta love life. So let me do this. Let me
Jeez.
see. Well, hey, there we go. We're back. Okay, there we go. I fixed it. So, all right. So let's get to it, Jeremy. I know you got some questions. So why don't you ask some questions?
You kind of caught me off guard there for a minute.
Oh, I didn't know if I was supposed to run the whole interview.
No, you don't have to run the whole interview. I'm just kind of looking over things. Talk about the time you were featured in Sports Illustrated. I know I remember that, and that was a pretty cool moment. But why were you featured in SI?
Well, that was funny. I literally remember driving back from Branson, and I get this call from this gal, and she's like, "This is Rhonda from Sports Illustrated, and we'd like to feature you, in our one of our episodes." And I started laughing. I'm like, "This is the biggest scam out there," because I love sports, but I was a very average athlete, and I was like, "You're not featuring me in anything." And she goes, "No, this is people who raise money. You were nominated because you raised a lot of money for different activities and such." And so lo and behold, I think at that time I might have raised, I don't know, about close to $250,000 for just various organizations and put on a lot of events. But it was really cool. I mean, it kind of caught me off guard. I just didn't see that coming. And the cover was with Tiger Woods and Peyton Manning, which were two of my favorite people in the world. So it was just like almost surreal that it was called Faces in the Crowd, and there's like 5 of us that they featured.
Yep, I remember that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think he disappeared for a little bit here. He must be having internet issues. But yeah, I remember that, and I think we were joking saying, you could actually sign the cover of a Sports Illustrated.
I do remember that. I do remember that.
But talk a little bit about the baseball team that you work with as well.
Yeah. So that was kind of a funny thing. And I always kind of say, too, look for opportunities. They're always there. You just have to look for them and then take advantage of them when they come your way. And I had a friend that said, "Would you like to come and see my son play in this special needs baseball league?" We went to church together, and I said, "Yeah, I'll come." And I mean, within 10 minutes, I was like, "God, I need to be part of this." It was just the camaraderie. It was something like I had never seen. And I think I'm going now on about 7 years working with this. It's over in Tillis Park, and the guy's name is Buck. I can't think of his last name right now, but he was actually got a Musial Award for starting this program. And there's probably about, I guess, 8 games a day and all different ages. It is just incredible, the camaraderie, the teamwork. And I'm here to tell you, I will laugh more in that 1 hour than I will the rest of the week. And I will come out of there just feeling, higher than a kite. It's incredible the effect that they have on you.
Right. The one thing, as a teacher myself, there's days when I just want to pull what hair I don't have out, and but it has to be challenging some days working with some of these kids. I mean, when they have a bad day, everyone's going to have a bad day. I know, and we've talked before, and you've mentioned, you'll leave some days a little frustrated, but you always seem to find the silver lining in the end.
Right.
So what is the biggest difference for you in working with, a special needs student or athlete as compared to all the athletes you've taught and coached in your career?
They always look for the positive. Never in a bad mood. They're so grateful that they're just having an opportunity to do a sport, and they even realize that. So they don't care about winning or losing. They just absolutely love having a chance to be on a field and just do amazing things. And when you have all these helpers, we call them buddies, that are cheering for them, I mean, that's incredible to them. I mean, this is their Super Bowl, and we kind of treat it like that. We make a big deal about it, and they get a sense of accomplishment. And believe it or not, some of these guys, they know better sports stats than than you or I. I mean,
Yeah.
they can dig in, and it's incredible to talk sports with some of these. Zach Daly, I know Jeremy, you know him, but if he reads something one time, he's got it. I mean, like he'll memorize the Blues schedule in a matter of about 5 minutes.
Oh, if it's Ohio State, he knows it. I mean, that's his team. And that's the one thing I noticed when talking to Derek in my book. He knows more about the wrestlers' records than they even do. I know when Rey Mysterio met up with him, he started telling Rey Mysterio about, one of his WrestleMania matches and, how long it went and all this stuff. And Rey had no clue. And he was just amazed. He's like, this guy knows more about me than I do. So, I always found that interesting too myself, when I get around some of the special needs kids who are really into a sport, that they seem to really grasp onto it and, immerse themselves in it and learn as much as they possibly can.
Well, and they have a lot of free time and they you're immerse themselves. That's a good term because that's what they'll do. They find a passion or a love, and I mean, they dig in. So it is incredible.
Right.
Yeah. Now I apologize. My dog, now she's only like 2 pounds, came in and knocked my wires over and reset my stuff. So that's why I left real quick. But so this is the debut show of For the Love of the Show. I am one of your hosts. Spurg, right there next to me, is the man who inspired this book, the author of For the Love of the Show, the one and the only,
the Good Doctor.
And right below us is his good friend, and I would almost dare to say mentor, Mr. John Warenberg. And we are talking.
Definitely.
Is that what it is?
I wouldn't have went into education if it wasn't for him. I mean, I'll never forget. And I was just telling some kids this today. I took a summer school position teaching 6th graders, thinking that they were 6th graders going into 7th grade. Well, I find out today these kids are only 11 years old. They're the youngest kids I've ever taught, and they're driving me up the wall. And but I tell them the story, and I tell this to a lot of the students I've had that, I remember one day I came into your classroom. I would always get there early, sometimes in the morning, and hang out. And you pulled me aside because I was running with a crowd that probably wasn't the wisest group of kids to run with. And you used to do these things on Friday called life skills. And that always stuck with me because you did one about finding your identity. And I remember you pulled me aside and, I think I had drawn a weed leaf or something on a book, hanging out with these guys. And you're like, you need to really think about your identity. And I'm thinking, what the hell is he talking about identity? I know who I am. I mean, I know my name, but that wasn't what you were talking about at all. And really from that day on, I always thought about that. And you always told me, before you do anything, always think about what your mother would think. And, I was fortunate to have him around, keeping me in line, and my grandfather. So without them two, who knows where I'd be right now. Probably designing more weed leaves on clothing or something. But yeah, so I know I owe a lot for being in education. But yeah, I don't know if I'll stay in education. I might be going back to journalism. Who knows? That's always something I'm always looking toward. But yeah, I've here lately, I've kind of been realizing that journalism is where I need to be. So we'll see. You never know.
It's funny that you say that, Jeremy, because you talk. So Warenberg, he talks about the life skill things that you did on Friday, that you did in stuff. So explain that. Like where did that come from? What's the meaning behind it? And what is your definition of life skills?
So I think I just kind of came up with this on my own because I always remember, like, when I was in junior high, I didn't remember jack shit what my teachers taught me.
Yeah.
But I would remember those like life lessons, like that stuck with me. So every Friday I was like, you know what, we're gonna take half the hour. And a lot of times I'd show them a video of someone doing something really good. And yeah, most of the time it wasn't sports, but just, people overcoming odds, I remember my favorite was these 2 wrestlers, and one had no legs and the other one was blind, but together they, through their teamwork, they end up helping each other through this wrestling season. And the one guy ends up going into the Special Olympics for wrestling. But, and then we would talk about, okay, teamwork. Can you imagine how they took their strengths instead of worried about their weaknesses, and they just made this? So, like I've said all over and over, I could care less if they can tell me who won the battle of whatever Antietam. But, if you're giving back to your community, if you're doing things like that, I feel like I've done my job. I really do. And I love history. I love sports. But at the end of the day, I'm wanting them to be good people and to be able to give back.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
like
what's
that.
important to me as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think a little bit of that has been lost in education today, unfortunately, because everyone's so worried about, the bottom line, the dollar, and meeting the state scores. And I think if we would pause for a second and get back to the real reason why we are trying to educate our kids to be good people, not to make a certain test score, I think we'd have a lot more successful individuals, after high school, regardless if they go to college or in the military or to work or a trade school or whatever.
Amen.
So, yeah.
Amen.
I think I might have been a better student if I had him as a teacher. I was a terrible student.
Hey, I made a kid cry today already, okay?
Just look at
second day of summer school, and I made him cry.
Look at you. Just a kid look at you, you'll cry. I don't blame the kid.
Yeah.
It seems you have a passion for kids with special needs.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that you have that real passion. And the one thing I want to ask you about is your Patriots sports special needs, where you're an assistant coach. Explain a little bit like that, because you don't see a lot of stuff for kids with special needs and sports like that for kids with special needs. So go into that and how that all started.
So that is a program in our county, and it is a Special Olympics team. We call ourselves the Patriots. And we will literally go the entire year, from bowling in the summer to bocce ball in the fall. We go into basketball, soccer. It's just absolutely amazing that we do all. Oh, yeah, I think I said them all, but they do each one for a couple months, and it is just amazing. The volunteers will come in, different sports teams, different members of the community. And we just connect, once again, giving these kids a chance that you and I always had, through Core League and club sports and even PE, to where they just love to get involved. So I just love seeing the smile on their faces. And like I said, I got to be honest, they give much more back to me than I give to them. I walk out of there every time feeling just like I'm on cloud nine. And they just, I kind of say it's almost like dogs, that they're unconditionally, they love you. If you show them any love, oh my gosh, they will do anything for you. And it's the same feeling I get with my dogs, that they love you unconditionally. They're always right by you. They're never in a bad mood. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of like special needs.
Yeah. You say that, and, I drove a special needs school bus, but most of those kids were nonverbal. And then with my fiance now and her son, Blake, he's verbal, but not 100%, like he knows little words and stuff, but it's his little noises that he makes. He's always happy-go-lucky. And I'm very wild and high-strung, but there's just something about listening to his little noises that he makes, and as I was trying to fix my camera and all that, I was listening to the things. And you were saying that it's just the smiles of these kids, how they're happy-go-lucky. Like that's Blake. He's just happy-go-lucky all the time. So now let's get into it. I think we've got almost every. Oh, there's one other thing. I talked about the haircuts, right, Jeremy? You talked about the SI thing.
Yeah.
Oh, the praise you in the storm.
That's Fred Factor. We didn't talk about Fred Factor yet either.
No.
Oh yeah, that's
okay.
That actually is my latest one. So
yeah.
Let's do the praise you in storm, and then we'll go to Fred Factor.
Okay. And this is an amazing thing. I coach these two. Once again, we got sports involved here, but I coach these two sisters I was like 16 and they were 12. At the age of like 15, I knew I wanted to go into coaching. So I actually already started coaching like 12-year-olds when I was 16. And I had these two girls on a softball team, loved them, just full of energy, great athletes. And I kind of lost track of them. Well, turns out the older sister ends up being my dental hygienist later. And we reconnected. Well, about a year later, after we reconnected, her younger sister tragically drowned trying to save her son and his friends. So all three of them drowned. It was one of the worst tragedies our county has ever seen. And lo and behold, I had to go get my teeth cleaned like a month later. And I was dreading this because I knew she would just be, still not over this. And it was awful. I mean, I walked in and looked at me and just started crying. And, normally we're joking and almost not a word was said. And finally, I just said, how are you coping? Are you okay? And she says, I paint, and this painting gives me relief. And she is really a good artist, but she kind of listens to God, and God would kind of tell her what to paint. So she had painted this beautiful painting within the week after her sister dying, and it was a cross coming out of the ice and like light coming out of the darkness. And I go, my God, that's beautiful. And she goes, well, that represents, I know my sister's in heaven, and through the darkness, all things are still good. So my dad had just had a massive heart attack. So I said, hey, can I have you paint me one of those for my dad to help, him recover? And she goes, here, take this one. I'll just paint another one. She gives me this painting, and I gave it to my dad. My dad recovered. And, I thought I'd just give him the painting, but lo and behold, something was telling me I got to keep this painting going. So I then passed it on to somebody else who had cancer, and then passed on to somebody else. Well, this was 13 years ago in 2010. 2 years ago, I gave a tour to not a little boy, a 14-year-old boy who had leukemia, him and his mom and dad, and just hit it off with him, through the Cardinals. And lo and behold, a year later, she calls me and says, he's not going to make it. He wants one more day at Busch Stadium. So I went to work. I got a hold of Ricky Horton, the announcer, and he got him in the broadcast booth. We got the Fred Bird girls to come up and talk to him, and we got good seats and just had a special night. Well, he ends up dying about, I guess, 2 weeks later, but I had given her the painting from another tour guide who'd lost his son to something. I can't remember what it was, but way too young, 38 years old. So we became very close, and she goes, John, I think you need to take this further. I think this is awesome how this painting keeps getting passed, but there's only one painting, and there's so many people hurting. So I said, well, if you help me, I'll do something. So we set up a Facebook page called Praise You in the Storm. And there's no money at all. It's nonprofit. It literally is out there to encourage people. So divorce, cancer, losing someone. I took photos of this painting and I send them a card along with the artist's rendition of the painting. She kind of did a description of everything that was coming out in that painting. And I want to say, I think I've sent out about 50 to 60 of those in the last 3 months, which is not a good thing, but I mean, we're trying to reach as many people as we can. But it's gotten really emotional now because the painting went to a 7-year-old girl who had cancer. She had 21 straight weeks of chemotherapy, and she's going to beat it. Yep. Well, weird as this gets, I had dated this gal from eHarmony. We didn't eventually stay together, but we stayed friends. And she texted me one day. She goes, hey, be praying for my nephew. Put him on that Praise You in the Storm. He's not doing good. He just got diagnosed second time with cancer. And I had been searching and searching. It's like, who's the next recipient of this painting? And man, it was like God took a bolt of lightning and just struck me. And I go, Sue, that's it. I think this has to have the painting. And she connected me with the mom. Turns out a single mom. The dad had left. She's trying to raise 3 kids on her own with this boy who has cancer. And the little girl within the next month is going to pass a painting on to the little boy, from a 7-year-old to a 7-year-old. Jeremy actually got to witness the passing of the painting onto her from a gal who had cancer. So he's actually kind of gotten to see this in action, and it's pretty emotional, isn't it, Jeremy?
Yeah, I plan to write about this at some point. Um, but yeah, I'll never forget that day, and I'd love to see the next one. Walking through that into their house that day, they were so upbeat,
Mm-hmm.
and to see this little girl that looked, like a Barbie doll, to know what she was going through. I'm not a real big kid person. I don't have kids myself, but man, that hit me. It really made me think. Why would this happen to a little girl like this? And I followed along with her progress since. I always keep up with her on Facebook and follow the updates from her parents and stuff. So yeah, it was definitely a day that I won't soon forget. I took photos of it, and it was very cool to witness. It's something that I think will make people realize just what really is important in life.
Yeah, and the really neat thing is it's connecting people. Like I always said, I can relate to people who have been through divorce. I've been through divorce. I can't relate to somebody who's lost a kid. I've never lost my children. I've never had cancer, but they can relate to each other. So we've been connecting people through this ministry that connect with people of the same needs. And it's been pretty cool. They're getting that support within each other.
Mhm.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff there. Uh, I mean, Jeremy knows I lost possibly one of the closest people in the world to me, my best friend Lato, to ALS, and
Mm.
to watch the progression that
Mhm.
somebody goes through like that, and then both my mother and my sister are both breast cancer survivors, so to watch that kind of stuff, it really tugs at your hearts, and then it makes us really forget the little things in life that really matter. you
Right.
know I mean, like, prime example, the mother who just, her and her two little young girls lost their lives. They're on Highway 55 and 270. Just like
Yeah.
that, easily life can just be done and over with.
Mhm.
Now we got to get to something positive. But I mean, it's all positive, but something, I mean, something not, a little more upbeat, even though these kids are still beating it and surviving and stuff like that, which is great. The Fred Factor.
Yes.
It's an award that goes, that you've been recognized for going above and beyond.
Yes.
Like, how does that, I mean, we can kind of tell how it all came about, but are you nominated for this kind of award, or how did you get it?
So this is the funniest thing. My girlfriend got me this book. She goes, "This is you through and through. You'll love this book." It's called The Fred Factor, and it's literally about this guy who wrote about his mailman named Fred, who always went above and beyond. He didn't just deliver the mail, but he's going to take it to a new level. If he sees that you've got a stone kicked over on your driveway, he's going to fix that stone. And I thought, this is absolutely, I read the book in 2 days. This is amazing. And I told Cheryl, I said, what I'm going to start doing? I'm going to, just on Facebook, every day nominate somebody I know who goes above and beyond. And it's kind of funny. I'm doing all walks of life, from people with the Cardinals to people through my church to people in teamwork. I mean, it's crazy. And then I always tag them, and it's kind of gone crazy because now people keep asking, what is this Fred Factor Award? Well, my dad's name is Fred, the minister, and he's very positive, and he truly is a Fred Factor kind of guy. He goes way above and beyond. And literally everybody thinks this award is named after my dad, and it's not. It's the name of the book of the guy that's the mailman. So I'm trying to get to the point. I'm gonna meet the author here in about, I guess, a couple months maybe. But I would just love to be able to kind of run with this, like now Jeremy does it, and he nominates his Fred Factor. And the whole goal is, good Lord, we've got so much negativity right now on social media between politics, religion. I mean, I can't hardly stand it. And I was like, you know what? There's so many good people out there. We only talk about the bad people. So, whoever I see that is just going way above and beyond their normal job, I go ahead and nominate them. And there's some amazing people out there that just common people nobody knows about.
So now will we get to see, will there actually be a Fred Factor award?
I'm working on that. So I want to see how this develops. I'm going to go in about 6 months. I've been doing one a day and then just kind of see where this takes me. I've had a lot of people like just question me. They want to read the book. And I'm thinking about trying to get some kind of like little award at the end of the year and gather all of these winners together and kind of tell their story. But I want to do something. I'm not sure where it is yet. So if you guys got any ideas, but I love the idea. It's been such a cool thing.
You're talking to the wrong person about ideas, because I can, as you're saying this, I'm going to look up the Fred Factor Award, right?
Well, it's just called the Fred Factor. If you go on my Facebook, you'll see a bunch of them.
Again. I just lost my camera again. That's my partner right there, Arlington. That is my partner, who helps me with all.
Somebody's going to turn this on, and they're going to be like, "Why you got a black man as your?"
But Arlington is the CEO of the Fuel Sports Network. So, okay, my question to you is: can anybody nominate anybody for a Fred Factor Award?
Sure.
And how do we go about that?
Send it to me, and I'll put it on my Facebook. But like I said,
here's who I nominate. Can I nominate somebody?
Sure.
I nominate you.
Jeremy.
No, you, Mr. Warenberg. No. Yes. There's something you have to take some gratitude in what you've done and take recognition.
I hate that.
And I understand it. And I hate being recognized for the UFL and all that stuff when I do all this stuff. So I get it. But I think you should be nominated for tomorrow's Fred Factor Award. And here's the reason why. As I sit here and I've done this interview and I've sat here and I've listened to everything that you said, to me, there's nobody that deserves it more than you by doing it, because you're going above and beyond with all the other stuff. Because I know you work for the St. Louis Cardinals. You do stuff there. And they're better than the Kansas City Royals, that's for sure.
We'll find out at the end of the season.
Oh yeah, don't get them going.
I'll be getting that money.
Side bet that I'm losing right now.
Don't worry, you won't lose. Don't worry, you won't lose. And Bobby Witt will be gone in a few years anyway, so who cares? He'll be a Cardinal where he belongs. Looking good in the red with the bats, with the cards on the bats. But I think you really deserve it for that simple fact. There is the stuff that you've done throughout your lifetime. I think it's time for you to be recognized by your own award for going above and beyond. Well, you laugh, but I mean, Jeremy, would you disagree with me? Good doctor, would you disagree with me?
No, not at all.
With the praise through the storm, encouragement thing, the thing that you created with teamwork, all of that stuff. I think you deserve to have one day where you're recognized with the Fred Factor Award. So that's my nomination. You said I can nominate anybody, right? Ain't that what you said?
I did.
So I nominate you. That's
just now, John. Doesn't the middle school give an award in your name too?
Yeah, the hands-on award.
Well, you didn't send me that in our notes.
About? Yeah, what is that about?
I didn't send that to Jeremy. I forgot all about that. So
I just happened to see a picture of it on. Well, I know the principal over at CMS. I'm friends with her husband.
Oh, Dawn.
Yeah, we grew up together, so I happened to just see it on her Facebook page one day, and so I thought that was kind of interesting. How did that award come about?
Well, the year after I retired, they contacted me and they said, we want to do an award in your honor called the John Warenberg Helping Hands, and it would be to the kid that kind of helps out the most and gives back. And I was like, man, that would be awesome. So, like, what do I got to do? And they go, nothing, just present the award. So I don't even I don't know who gets it until literally that day. But the cool thing about that, this is the first year I'm thinking, man, I'm not going to know this kid because I've been out long enough. And I actually did know the girl. She played on my daughter's volleyball team. So literally the 5 winners, I've known all 5 of them, which makes it pretty special. And I couldn't agree more with all 5 of them. Just great kids.
I think that's what makes teaching such a great profession is you always run into someone that you might have had an effect on when they were a kid. Now, in my case, sometimes it's a negative effect. I get some kids that they're 27 years old now and they tell me how lousy of a teacher I was but you'll run into
No,
people.
you've had some pretty cool
Oh
things
yeah.
where kids have come back and
Yeah.
some of your basketball teams, you told me that, and those are some pretty cool stories.
Yeah. I mean, that, and it can be a good thing and a bad thing because I've had players that I've lost. I had to see one buried last summer, who was a really good kid and was a young father at that. His daughter had just been born 2 weeks before, and so that was tough. But yeah, I see a lot of especially the players that I had early on when I was in the inner city. To see and get to talk to those kids and stay in touch with them now that they're 29, 30 years old, and see them one, make it out of the projects, and two, being able to have some success, that really makes the job worthwhile. It does. Because there's a lot of days when I'm walking out of that classroom, I'm just shaking my head. I'm like, this is the worst decision I ever made in my life. But all it takes, you may have 20 bad apples, but all it takes is one letter, one Facebook message or something, one text message, and that makes it all worthwhile. It really does.
It keeps you going. It does.
It does. And I always say that it always seems that when I'm at my lowest point, one of them always pops up. It could be, and I'll never forget, I remember driving through Burger King on a Saturday afternoon a couple of years ago, and I had just been laid off here in St. Clair, and I was real down about teaching. I'm like, I'm done. This is a waste of my time. And I get home, I open the bag, and on a napkin is scribbled this note from one of the employees who I had as a 7th grader. And he said how much he liked having my class because I talked about wrestling to him. And I'll never forget that. I still have it hanging on my fridge upstairs.
Isn't that awesome? That is great.
So, it's things like that, kind of keep me going with it, even when times are tough. So, yeah.
Well, and at that age, just being a friend to them, I mean, I know you can't really be their friend, but you kind of really can be. You can be a support to them where you don't know what they're going through. Jeremy, we won't mention names. We know some of those teachers that they hate students. They hate this kid and that kid. I'm like, you have no idea their background or what they're going through.
Right.
I will never do that.
I'll never forget, and you'll know who I'm talking about, a math teacher from your school. He's no longer with us, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I couldn't stand him when I had him in class. When I had him in his class, he gave me such a hard time. But then when I got older and I became a teacher, I ran into him at a football game. And I tell you what, I learned so much from him about just growing up in high school. That I regret that I never got to tell him that before he passed away.
Yeah.
But it is. It's teachers like that who, I'm sure, I've had students who think I dislike them because I was always on their case or something. And that's not the truth, And so, yeah, it's always great to touch base with a former student to see them well,
So it's funny. The name of this show is For the Love of the Show. And it's more like you were more about for the love of the community and helping people. And then with the coaching that you've done and all of that, like what made you decide? I mean, we've packed a lot into this 48 minutes so far. And I don't think we've really touched a whole lot on sports. Just all the great works you did. That's why you're going to be nominated as the Fred Factor for tomorrow. I mean, or when this show drops, it's just how it's going to work. But what was it about sports, for your love of sports, that you use? Because that's basically this whole interview has been your love of sports and how you've done all of this great stuff. Like, what was that passion? Where did it start at?
I mean, I gotta say my mom and my dad, I mean, they just very giving people. And like I told you earlier, I didn't really know what I wanted to do at first. And then literally, I remember my mom saying, you would make a great coach and teacher because you love sports and you love, working with kids. And so at the age of 16, I was like, yep, that's my thing I'm going to do. So, I hear other people go like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm like, Yeah, I said I'm going to be a teacher and a coach, and I even said when I retire, I'll work for the St. Louis Cardinals. So my whole life is pretty well gone as planned. But I just knew, like my dad said, he goes, use this platform to really reach out and be able to help so many people. Because face it, sports is such a big part of our society. It is in our culture, and sometimes I think almost too much. And I've always said when sports is done in the right way, there's nothing better. When it's done in the wrong way, there's nothing worse.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen so many cool things happen through the years, and Jeremy knows this. So a lot of times we'll pass articles or YouTube videos back and forth because we both have that same passion, and we love that. So
Yeah.
when you can impact a kid to do something, and it's just sports is life. It's teamwork. It's sacrifice. It's staying positive. It's having perseverance, and you can literally take all of those attributes in sports and then take it towards your future life. And I've just had a lot of students who have gone on to do great things. I'm just so proud of that. I know they learned a lot of these lessons on sports.
Right. Yeah,
I mean, you
absolutely.
created an author. You created an
Yeah.
Yes,
author right
sir.
over here.
Yes, sir.
A guy who
Yeah.
wrote a book.
I mean, that's
what Jeremy's done and what Dustin Rao have done. That's two of the greatest things I've had a kid do. So,
and we're hopefully going to have
Jeremy.
Dustin
I've
on here.
taught 38 years, so that's pretty good.
I've known Dustin since he was a little guy playing ball for you, and I wrote an article about him when he first came back from overseas, and I actually was in your classroom one day when he came in to talk. I covered it for the newspaper, and so I've known Dustin for years. The concert that they put on is great. You talk about a guy that's got the community bought in to what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Dustin Rao has done a fantastic job with the Songs for Soldiers. I mean, they've had Brett Michaels. They got coming this year? Night Ranger and Gin Blossoms are going to be putting on a show in little bitty Columbia, Illinois. It's not like it's going to be over at St. Louis at the pageant or something. This is in the City Park area, right? In Columbia, ain't that, or down by the marketplace?
Right. Yeah. So, no, it's City Park now.
City Park area. So I mean, it's grown. I mean, he has guys that literally take off work the entire week to help him set up, the stage and all that stuff. I mean, everyone that gets involved with it is volunteering their time, and it's for a great cause. I mean, I've never been in the military. My grandfather was, but I always respect our military men because they're doing something that I could not do, I don't think. And anytime we can recognize them for making that sacrifice, I think is a good thing. So hopefully we can get Dustin on here in the next few weeks. I know he's really busy getting ready for the next Songs for Soldiers. I believe it's in September, and but we'll try to get him on here and talk to him.
He is a hoot, let me tell you.
He is. He's funny, man.
He's a good time. You'll have a good podcast.
All the Ryan boys are. I mean,
they are.
I remember when their dad was always around when they played ball, and he was a hoot. So they're always a good time, definitely.
Yeah, see, I remember when we were debating when I launched the Fuel Sports Network with my partner Arlington Lane and stuff like that. I knew I wanted to do something with Jeremy, and when he wrote the book, we had talked, and I'm like, bro, I think the perfect show that we can do would be a show called For the Love of the Show, where we have fans come on like you and tell their stories of how sports and the stuff that they've done have impacted their life. Because what we don't realize is that time when we're at a baseball game or a football game, hockey game, basketball game, wrestling event, for those 2 to 3 hours, we all get along.
Oh yeah.
And we forget everything. And I think that is what's so magical about it.
I talk about in the book, some of my best memories with my grandfather were spent at wrestling events, at Chiefs games, at Rams. You'll never hear me say this again, but at Rams games, and even at Cardinal games, unfortunately. Yeah, we spent many days at Cardinal games when I was a kid, in the $5 left field seats, And I'll never forget those times, regardless of and he was not a baseball fan. He did it just to spend time with me. And as a kid, I didn't realize that. Once I got older, I started to see that, and it meant even more to me. So, those are memories that I'll always remember. And, we all go to Notre Dame. We try to get together and go to Notre Dame once a year. And those trips are always fun. We always get ourselves into something. I know me and John we wound up taking the wrong turn at a pep rally, and we wound up sitting right next to John Heward,
right on the
former
spotlight.
Heisman winner,
Right,
and they put the spotlight on us when they introduced. So, we always seem to get in some sort of mischief when we go, and but the game is secondary. Really, it's hanging out that Friday, being up on campus, walking around, going out to the bars and getting something to eat and hanging out. And it's something that I always, I haven't been able to make the last couple of years. Hopefully I'll be able to go to the next one, but it's always something that I look forward to. And, I was never even a Notre Dame fan as a kid. That's what's crazy. I never even watched a down in Notre Dame football till I met John when I was in 8th grade. And then I'm like, it's a Saturday. I don't have anything to do. I might as well watch the Notre Dame game. And became a huge fan, so much so that this past fall when I was at Eureka, right across the hallway, the head coach, Marcus Freeman, is over there recruiting a player from Eureka.
Oh, yeah.
I literally ran out of the classroom, didn't say nothing to the kids, just ran out and grabbed them and said, "Hey, I need a picture with you." And he was more than willing to oblige, except he made fun of me for all my Chiefs stuff I had on.
I don't blame him. I would too.
He goes, "Oh, you look like a big Chiefs fan, not a big Notre Dame fan." And I go, "Well, you're not playing right now. The Chiefs are."
So. Is that how it works?
He was super cool. And, it's just things like that it extends way beyond just the game. So, and it's the same.
You made a great point. It's that time together. Yeah. My dad and I were lucky to go to Game 6 in 2011 World Series, and still my greatest memory with my dad. And we still start every conversation talking about Cardinal baseball. It doesn't matter. It's like that's what gets other conversations going. It's always sports, And my daughter and I we'd always be Blues hockey, and then from there you talk about other things. So.
Boo. So, you speak of that, I lost my dad, and I always had this bet. I always make dumb bets. I always had this bet that if the Blues ever made it to a certain point in the playoffs or won a Stanley Cup, I would get a Blues tattoo. Been making this bet for years. Well, 2019, the Blues finally, I made a bet with a guy for the Dallas Stars, and the Blues beat the Stars, so I had to get a Blues tattoo. And I'm like, okay, if I have to get a Blues tattoo, I cannot stand them. I hate them with a passion. Worst organization in all of hockey. I wish they would move to Kansas
They're
City. They're
honestly one of the best sports organizations in St. Louis.
They're not. They're not. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. See? Yeah. I can't stand up. I'd have to stand up on my chair to show you mine. But I was like, if I'm going to get a Blues tattoo, I'm going to do it in a memory of my dad, because that was some of the best times that I had with my dad, was going to the old Checker Dome.
Oh, yeah.
And having the birds flying around our heads and stuff. So I have the 1990s blue tattoo where it's the blue, red, and yellow. And it was his favorite player, Curtis Joseph. But I have the number in Miami Dolphins colors. So when I look down, I see 13. And my dad's favorite football team was the Miami Dolphins, and his favorite player was Dan Marino. So I have this dumb tattoo that a team I can't stand, but for me, it's a tribute to my dad.
That's awesome.
You have dumber tattoos than that, though. So
do I? I have my kid's tattoo named
30
here.
Seconds to Mars is pretty dumb.
Well, yeah, right here. Well, that group saved me from almost throwing a bunch of pills in my mouth and killing myself.
But I don't know.
But whatever. I mean, I have that. I have a Battlehawks tattoo. That's pretty.
Oh, that's dumb. Really dumb. That's really
dumb. I have my kid's names tattooed right here. That's dumb too. This is for the love of the show. We have about 30 seconds. So, Jeremy, I have an idea of what we're going to do. We're going to do a rapid fire 5 questions.
Okay.
1 answers to our guest. Okay.
Do you have these questions ready?
It's just 5 things about sports. Ready? It's just,
Okay.
we're going to go baseball, soccer, football, hockey.
I don't know anything about soccer, really, man.
Well, it's okay. It's a player. Your favorite Cardinal player.
Scott Rowland.
Okay. Favorite football player.
Of all time would be Joe Montana.
Okay. Favorite basketball player.
Larry Bird.
Ooh, good one.
Ooh, I thought it was Pistol.
Hockey player.
Ooh. For a while, now you're going to laugh at this one. His name was Bobby Basson.
Okay.
He was a grinder, but I love grinders. I just do. I mean, I love Bobby Basson with a passion. I like Oscar Sundquist right now. I have an Oscar Sundquist jersey, so those are my kind of guys. They really are.
Well, there you go. That's it. There's only 4 major sports, really, right?
I guess.
So we'll just leave it at that. I don't know. I just wanted to throw it out. Figure a great way to wrap up the hour of this show. For the love of this show, the Davey Show. I am one of your hosts, Spurg. Right there is the man who inspired this book and wrote the book, the author of this book, the one and only.
The good doctor.
And actually probably the guy who helped inspire the book and inspire the show, Mr. John Warenberg. Tell people where they can find you and the Fred Factor, which you will nominate yourself on Friday.
Yeah, you have to go to my Facebook page, John Warenberg.
And with that being said, we will see you guys. Go to Amazon and Roku and download our app at Roku. You know, I am just so
Man, you
messed
can't
up right
talk.
here. I cannot
There
talk.
you go.
My dog, I'm trying to watch her so she's not messing with things.
Hopefully they
you
can
go
read better
download
than
us,
you.
Fuel Sports Network on Amazon, Roku, and Amazon Fire Stick. You can also buy For the Love of This Show on JeremyHousewright.com and Amazon.com. With that being said, we will see you guys next week.